Hey, good evening, everybody. Round of applause. Welcome to the UNSHAKABLE Show. We have another great guest with us this evening to have a conversation with us. Dr. John Andrews, who's speaking to us from sunny Scunny. Is that right, John?
Well, yeah, just outside Scunthorpe, little village called Luddington. So about 9 miles outside Scunny, yeah.
And it's not long since you've moved there, is it?
No, we moved end of January, and by God's grace, managed to do that before the lockdown, because that would have been a nightmare. So yeah, we got moved, and of course, you've got the tension of now the lockdown and millions of jobs that need to be done, and no DIY shops open in order to get the stuff done. So yeah, so it's all interesting.
But you look quite organised. You see, you've got your bookshelves up, and there's pictures on the wall and all sorts, isn't there?
I think what Angie is trying to draw our attention to really is probably the most important piece of memorabilia you have in your room. Look at that, Gerard.
Come on.
That was priority to get on the wall, wasn't it?
Absolutely. Yes,
I was going to introduce you as a theologian, an author, a pastor, an academic, but the most important thing really is an avid Liverpool supporter.
Well, red or dead, absolutely. So yesterday was my wife's birthday, and I managed 53. She turned yesterday, almost 32 years of marriage, and I got her to wear a Liverpool hoodie for the first time.
Wow.
So I've got her to turn red, so that's marvelous. So that was a bit of an achievement. But yeah, I've been a red for forever, since 1974, actually.
That's fantastic. So
yeah.
just one quick question on the Premier League, though. Should we be playing the last few games, or should we just give it to Liverpool and call the season over?
Personally, I'd love to play it out. I think the players would want that. I think the fans would want that. I think, excuse all the Man United supporters out there, but they will forever hold that over us. If we don't actually win it, they'll say we never won that. And that will be the 19th title will be forever disputed, and when we eventually overtake Man United, they'll hold that against us. So I desperately want us to finish. But listen, in the scheme of the universe, it's a small issue. But I'm hoping that we will do this year.
Thanks, John. You've already brought a word of wisdom to this show. Thank you very much. Hey, so tell us about what your world looked like before COVID-19, and what have been the major changes for you then?
Well, I suppose the fundamentally biggest change was I was on the road a lot. So midweek tended to be largely based at home with work, study, coaching sessions, lots of stuff you could do actually on Zoom and FaceTime. So my midweek rhythm was not dissimilar to what it is now, but then maybe on the road a lot at the weekends. And of course that has fundamentally shut down in every way. So what it's required for us is a shift in our routine, a shift in our rhythm. So I would have very much, Dawn and I would have had Tuesday, for example, as our day off. Monday was a big one church day. And then Wednesday was like the beginning of my week, and then pushed rhythmically to the weekend. And then that was the cycle sort of thing. With COVID, that cycle's not going to work. So we moved to a Monday to Friday feel, with a Saturday, Sunday sort of shutdown, almost Sabbath feel, to sort of rest, as well as then allowing us to focus on maybe getting jobs done around the house. So what it's done is it's created little, we've tried to legitimize moments in our world that allows us to move from a work mode to a rest mode to a do stuff around the house mode without allowing them all to bleed in. So that's been the biggest single change. It's the fact that, I'm getting 3 weeks to the gallon in my car. So it's marvelous. So, but that has required a psychological and physical readjustment, and adjusting expectations and adjusting energy levels and trying to negotiate with that without that becoming a bit of an issue in my brain. Yeah. So that's been a big one. Yeah.
You just mentioned a Sabbath, and I know you've written on this. I think your book was excellent on Sabbath. You obviously think it's highly important in the rhythm of our lives. Tell us what, even now with COVID-19, what a Sabbath might look like for you, and why you think it's fundamentally important.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, especially to any of your leaders listening to this, especially, I would say it's really important. It's probably even more important to think about this, because when you're living and working at home now, it feels like you're not at work. And the danger is we don't then legitimize the rest seasons and rest moments. And so work bleeds into rest time, and rest time sort of comes into something else. And so for us, that's been even more important, because allowing a differentiation between the focus of, right, today we're going to focus on work and family or whatever, and tomorrow is going to be a shutdown. So what Dawn and I have tried to practice, if possible, is an evening morning rhythm. So we always try to start our rest day from the evening before. Which is really, so when it was Tuesday, then Monday night into Tuesday. And that evening before is phenomenal in terms of psychological shift, in terms of preparing. Not always possible, of course. Currently, our Sabbath looks really profoundly restful. So on Sunday, we would get up, we would connect on our online local church service. We'll be part of that for around about an hour. And then if the weather is good, Dawn and I will take advantage getting out with the dogs, have a walk. We love walking. So for us, that's a massive tank filler. It's not for everybody, but it is for us. And we would maybe go for anywhere between a 5 and 10 kilometer walk. And then we're back. We have a late lunch, family round the table. Everybody has to stop what they're doing, get round the table. Technology's turned off. And we have an hour together around the dinner table, maybe longer. And then the evening is chill out, watch a movie, read a novel. I'm into Grisham at the minute, so loving that. So it is profoundly restful, and physical, psychological, emotional tank filler with a spiritual emphasis to it. So we're actually working quite hard at keeping a Sabbath, even though it feels like we're not really working. We still have to keep that rhythm, and that's really helped us.
That's good. That's good.
Very good.
Makes sense. We agree with you. Tell us a little bit then, because you're a theologian, or I class you in that way. There's been all kinds out there about COVID-19, judgment from God, the end times. All these things are bound to come out. I've shared some of my views on this show, so I won't go down there. And you may disagree, and that's okay. I doubt it. That's why I'm asking you the question, really saying, reinforce what I've said, John. Otherwise, we'll cut this bit out. No, what's your view in relation to God saying anything through this, or God's involvement in it?
Yeah, I mean, this is always difficult, because I think the Christian community tends to polarize on things far too much. You know, we tend to swing to extremes and reactions. And I think part of the problem is that humans are always looking for an answer to why something is happening. And of course, in some moments that's very helpful, and in other moments it actually is not even relevant. So our reaction, so this is our personal reaction. We haven't tried to focus on, is this judgment, is this from God, or is this just a thing? We've tried to focus on, what's our response to this thing?
Yeah.
So whether it's from God or not, it's here.
Yeah.
So what's our response to it? What does that cause us to think about God himself? How do we respond to that in worship? How do we think about that at a missional level? What's our responsibility in this season? And personally, as a teacher, I have felt one of my primary responsibilities is to try and shape narrative, is to try and help people with a narrative that doesn't ignore COVID, but is not consumed and driven by it, is not dominated by it, but finds a genuine, authentic faith response to it. So there's extremes out there that will say, you know, if you love Jesus and you're doing all the right stuff, this won't touch you. And then we get wonderful people that love Jesus and are doing all the right things that get touched by this. Yeah. So the extremes back us into a corner. Yeah. And they force us to make arguments that actually I don't think COVID requires. I'm responding to COVID in the same way that I would respond to the flu, or the same way that I would respond to a dip in the stock market, or the same way that I would respond to a changing government. It may or may not be God, depending on where you want to place those arguments, but it's more important, how do I respond to this?
Mm-hmm.
What do I think either God is saying or what I am learning in this? And how does the Christian community position its voice in a way that takes advantage of this rather than backs itself into a corner on the extreme or polarized issues? And that's really been our response to that.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you feel there's particular lessons that you have been learning through this, or you as a family? Or
yeah, I mean, it's funny. I've been in this season. I've been in the book of Isaiah as part of my daily devotions, and my goodness, that has been phenomenal. I mean, I love Isaiah, and I'm always very conscious that I think deep down Isaiah was Jesus' favorite prophet as well. So I'm always trying to sort of look for the Jesus stuff constantly in Isaiah. But it was funny, right at the beginning of the COVID experience, the Lord spoke to me from Isaiah 3. And in there, there's meltdowns taking place, panic, all sorts of stuff. The Babylonians are coming over the horizon. It's all going on. And the Lord speaks to Isaiah, and he speaks to the people and says, tell the righteous it will be well with them, and they will eat of the fruit of their labor. And it really spoke to me. In the midst of COVID, am I going to look to the Lord for my sustenance, or am I going to allow the narratives and the conversations around me to drive me on this? And it produced in me a tremendous sense of confidence. And as I went through the book of Isaiah, one of his favorite phrases in English is, in that day. Hebrew, it's bayom hahu. In that day. 42 times he says, in that day. Do you know what struck me was the sense of, whatever we think of this day, we serve a God who is able to fulfill his agenda in this day. That the Lord has a plan and a purpose, and whether he's the author of this, he certainly has a strategy in it.
Yeah.
And that has caused me constantly to be reaffirmed in the Lord, who is above this, and yet who is also profoundly in it with us. Mm-hmm. He's not distant, he's close, but neither is he chained and manipulated by the circumstance. He is above this. And so when my health or my money or my family or my livelihood comes under pressure, where do I go? What do I really believe about him, about his purpose, his plan, and his word? And so it really, in some ways, moments like this, I think, force us to crystallize the essence of what we really believe. And it's in some ways the simplicity of that, and yet the profundity of that, which has been an incredible affirmation in my own journey. I've kept a little hashtag Fighting Corona journal, and it's been remarkable the times in my devotions I've felt the word of the Lord bring life, the word of the Lord bring peace, the word of the Lord bring shalom, it's a beautiful Hebrew expression, menuah, stillness. It's the word used in Psalm 23, the stillness that comes because of the word of God. And I have found that to be consistently remarkable in this season. So it's probably affirmed the simplicity of what I believe, and yet has reinforced the profundity of that. That it is the simplicity of our confessions are the foundation of profound ideas which speak to a society that literally is crumbling in some aspects around us. So I think that's been a big issue for me.
That's great.
Yeah.
I think you said that beautifully, John. My wife's been making copious notes there as you've been speaking. So thank you for that. In regard to post-COVID church, what any thoughts of what you think it might look like? I mean, we're all grappling with that now. And of course, we don't know where post is.
Yeah. It's
going to go on for some time in one form or another.
Indeed. Thoughts? Yeah, I mean, I've been given some thought to this. I hope that what this season will do will be to help us crystallize and discern what's really important, and maybe have the courage to say some things we thought were profoundly important and they're maybe not as important.
Yeah.
So I love the fact that church has gone into technology. It has thrown itself into that arena. And I think we will be better and stronger because I think we'll be able to use that technology on an ongoing basis much more intelligently and even much more ecologically. I think we'll maybe have less traveling meetings and maybe the confidence to know that Zoom meetings in some contexts are as good as meeting face to face. But I hope the other thing that comes out of it is for the Christian community is an understanding, my goodness, that face to face community is absolutely essential. Tonight we should have been having dinner with 4 of our bestest friends in the world. And I am feeling sad, literally feeling physically and emotionally sad that will not happen tonight. Now, we've talked about doing FaceTime together, but that's just not the same as great food around a dinner table with people you passionately love, because there's things that only happen face to face that cannot happen even via the face to face of technology. I was meditating in Proverbs 27, as iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another, the NIV says, but the Hebrew is much stronger. The Hebrew says, as iron sharpens iron, so the one man sharpens the face of another. And the idea there is that profound things happen in community, face to face, when we're touching each other. And I hope and pray that the church will have a renewed sense of urgency and commitment to the physicality. Now, we may do that physicality different, but the physicality of meeting, I think, at every level has to be there. And I think the third thing is this, and I hope this will be a big issue for us, is that, again, whatever you think of COVID, I think what it's done is it's reminded us that this world is not it. That actually a little bug has threatened the stock markets, pushed governments to the edge of their tolerance, crossed borders, invaded our homes and invaded our lives, and brought 21st century living, as we were all enjoying it, to a standstill. I mean, 1/3 of the world is in lockdown. It's unbelievable. It's incredible. Now, what I hope is that we go, my goodness, this is maybe an indicator of how vulnerable our world is, of how easily what looks incredibly stable and firm and sophisticated and amazing could fall over. And whatever your eschatology is, and I have a fairly strong eschatology in terms of how I think things are going to pan out, but whatever your eschatology is, this must say to the church, my goodness, we need to really focus our hearts and our attention on missioning our world like never before. And I hope that COVID will be a missional wake-up for us. I hope it shows us that the world is vulnerable and that the church is supremely positioned with technology and physicality to really redouble our efforts to touch the world. So I'm hoping that some of those things come out of the conversation and we end up much more focused. And I think one other thing for me practically, I think financially it has frightened people. I think there are millions of people that are living literally from paycheck to paycheck. And this has shown us that maybe we do need to be more prudent, more wise, consider financial management as part of both our missional and community responsibility. And that if this ever happened again, the church, as well as the individual members of the church community, that maybe we could be better prepared for a moment where we're locked down. I reflected with someone recently that if someone shut the internet down, we'd be absolutely stuffed. So everything is vulnerable, and yet out of that, the opportunities are immense.
Sure, yeah. Thanks, John. You're down to be with us here at C3 I think
In July.
July.
in July, yeah. One way or other, you'll be with us. I'd suspect it's not going to be physical by that time, but we'll get you filmed and we'll have you in anyway, because we always appreciate your ministry and input. Even what you shared today is superb. Thank you. Just one practical step. You're in the house with 3 other adults? Is that
Yes,
right?
yes, and 2 sausage dogs. Don't forget the sausage dogs. So yeah,
Don't forget the sausage dogs.
indeed. So yeah, my son was furloughed, so he works in Gloucester. So we said, look, come back here. We're very blessed in the home we've moved into. It gives us room for. We bought it for that specific purpose, to both serve family and serve wider ministry. And then my daughter was on a internship program, of course, church one, that shut down, so she's back with us. So we found ourselves having to really negotiate with 4 adults that weren't used to living with each other in the way we are, because, you know, my son's 23, my daughter's just turned 19. Mm-hmm. So how do we negotiate that? How do we create spaces for privacy, but spaces where we come together? And also encourage routine and roles within the day. So we've tried to do that. So for us, for example, having dinner together is one of those non-negotiable events. Everyone has to sit around the table for dinner. The technology, we've never allowed technology in the dining room. So no technology, human face contact. And then we've tried to create rhythms within the day. So spaces where TV's off, places like our conservatory where we're trying to not allow the technology to go in there and dominate that space, because that's a conversational connecting space. Mm-hmm. And then of course doing your normal fun things. I try to do I've been blessed with a lovely office space, so I try to do all my work in the office rather than allowing work to bleed into the bedroom. And if we do share spaces where maybe Beth Ann's doing something in the dining room or Dawn's working, whatever, everything has to be packed away so that those spaces can return to their normal, definition. And that's helping us, or else we just found that stuff gets cluttered, spaces bleed, those little foxes ruin stuff. So we've had no major arguments, but any fallouts have been on relatively small things, not big things. Yeah. And it's the management of the little things, the management of the spaces, the management of routine. So I've got to be careful. I'm their dad, but they're both adults. Mm-hmm. So I can't boss them. So you're trying to guide them. And by and large, everyone's sort of buying into what's required to keep us all sane and healthy and still loving each other and not wanting to kill one another. Because we've got a nice big garden, so like children could disappear here very easily under my back garden if I so desired. But actually, we're okay. We're okay, and we live in the country, so we're able to get out. We're able to have walks. We're able to do exercise and stuff like that. So that helps as well. So just working on the little things. Yeah. And that tends to help with the bigger things.
Yeah. Great. Real wisdom there from you, John. We appreciate it.
Bless you.
So I think we're going to end there. Yeah. We'll have you back on some other time. We're back at C3. Thank you for your friendship. Thank you for the gift you are to the Church of Jesus Christ. And we will keep that connection strong.
Bless you. Thank you for having me. It's been an absolute joy and honor to be part of the program and see you guys again. Bless you.
It was a pleasure. We always end with the same thing.
Remember, we're C3 wherever we are. Bye for now.
God bless.